It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
What's going on, River Valley? Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Monday. Mark Freeman, Maddie Lassiter, inside the Cogswell Motors studio. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today in the sports world. It was a good weekend in sports for the most part. The Hogs didn't lose, so that was good. My Cowboys did lose. Just very disappointed. We'll talk about that here in a minute. I'm very upset with the way a couple things were done. If you followed me on Twitter, you saw it yesterday. At Real Mark Freeman's my name. I was very upset with the coaching. I think it was more of a coaching thing than a playing thing. It was unacceptable. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Some high school football action coming up this Friday. We'll recap what happened this last Friday. Conference races are getting tight. You've got some teams who are still fighting for conference championships and some hopes that took hits this weekend. And then you've got some teams that are pretty much locking up conference championships as we speak. So I've asked today's CrossFit Russellville poll question. If you haven't taken advantage of the awesome resource that is CrossFit Russellville, if you want to get yourself in shape, I'm telling you, I've been down there. You can watch the video. Go to rivervalleyleader.com and search CrossFit Russellville in the top right there, and you'll eventually come across a video of me doing the CrossFit workout. Now, I was in probably, I don't want to say it was the worst shape of my life, but it was near it. And I did CrossFit, and I could tell, immediately. It worked everything. I walked out of there, I was jelly-legged, and I was tired. And I know that had I been able to, had I done it for more than just this one video, it would have done me a whole lot of good. We see them running by here all the time, and these same people, it seems like it's addictive. So take care of your body and take advantage of this CrossFit Russellville revolution that's going on here in the River Valley. But today's CrossFit Russellville poll question, with a weekend of crazy stuff going on in sports, what was the biggest sports story of the weekend? There was somebody just answered it, Corey Thone of the Woodshed. He was on with us a little while back, and you're going to hear more from the Woodshed in the very near future. He answered and said, boink. And the story of the weekend for him was Missouri missing a chip shot field goal in overtime and losing their game this weekend to South Carolina. We talked about it on Friday. I said I wasn't going to bet against Missouri anymore. At home, number 5 in the country, I've bet against them, not literally bet, but said that they were going to lose several times, and they've come back to win every time. This week, I said I wasn't going to bet against them, but I thought South Carolina was the better team. Down 17-0 in the third quarter. Didn't really seem like South Carolina was the better team, as Dylan Thompson wasn't able to do anything offensively at quarterback. They bring Connor Shaw in. I guess it was just a feeling Steve Spurrier had, but he brought Connor Shaw in. He brings them all the way back. They tie the game, take it to overtime, and in the second overtime, South Carolina scores a field goal. Missouri misses. Really, I think they had first and goal inside the 10-yard line and weren't able to punch it in at all, and then they go in to kick a field goal. And no, I don't even think they got that far, but it was a chip shot field goal, and it was missed, and Missouri lost. Excuse me. Goodness. There has got to be some allergen on this because it whips my butt every week. Anyway, long story short, that was a great story of the weekend. Cowboys, we've got the NBA preview. The NBA season tips off tomorrow night. Very much looking forward to that. My Miami Heat are taking on, I love LeBron James, so I'll claim them. I like D-Wade too. Those are my two favorite players. Why can they not be my Miami Heat? They're going to tip off the season tomorrow night against Derrick Rose and the Chicago Bulls. We'll give you our preview. Jason and I will talk a little bit about that in a moment. He's a big Lakers fan. He'll be on about 11:30. And then we've got to give you our top 15 players. We don't want to give a whole lot of analysis on that because we don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but maybe you thought the biggest story of the weekend was the World Series. Have you ever seen a game end like World Series game number 3? No, the answer is no, because in the World Series, you may have seen it happen in another game, but to end a World Series game on an obstruction call, I know that the letter of the law says it was the right call, and you'll see Cardinals fans who are saying, look, it's the right call, look at the letter of the law, and then you'll see Red Sox fans on the other side saying, Give me a freaking break. What was Middlebrook supposed to do? Was he supposed to, barrel roll out of the way so that Alan Craig doesn't trip over him? And then I saw it on Twitter. One of my friends said, lay down on your stomach. Now get up. Is your first reaction to kick your heels up? I've seen it on both sides. So it was a wild ending. For those of you that didn't see it this weekend, Game 3 of the World Series ends with Dustin Pedroia making one of the best plays I've ever seen. I mean, he plays up in the infield grass. It's like he's 10 feet from the pitcher to the right, and the ball is smoked up the middle, and he dives and catches a grounder, picks it up, and throws it home and gets Yadier Molina out by about a country mile there at home plate. And then Jared Saltalamacchia throws to third base, which he should probably never do again, and it gets away from Will Middlebrooks. And as he dives to catch the ball, it goes under his glove, hits Alan Craig in the arm, bounces into foul territory in the left field line, and as Alan Craig gets up and turns to look, he notices I need to run. He takes off. Will Middlebrooks is laying in his baseline. It's not necessarily the baseline, but his baseline, and he trips over him. Jim Joyce, the same umpire who ruined the perfect game against Armando Galarraga, for those that don't recall. Remember when the guy was out by a step and a half, and the how did it go? Yeah, he called him safe is what happened. Armando Galarraga's thrown a perfect game. 2 outs in the ninth, and they get an out at first base. The guy's out by this much, and he calls him safe, and he ruins the perfect game. He talks about how sick he was about the game, about the call. He's now in the World Series, and they say he's one of the best umpires there are, and he's the one who makes the call on obstruction. And from what I've heard, it was the right call. I'm not a huge baseball guy, but it ends World Series Game 3. The Cardinals took a 2-1 lead. Had a chance last night to go up 3-1 at home and have a chance to even close it out tonight, but the Red Sox were able to come out ahead last night. 2 games apiece now. Game 4 is tonight, or excuse me, Game 5 is tonight at 7:07 first pitch from St. Louis. Regardless, the Boston Red Sox will get to go home to try to win the series. Will they be up 3-2 or will they be down 3-2? That's the question. I'll have to look here to see who's pitching tonight, but regardless, it's going to be an incredible game there in St. Louis. All these games so far have been really, really good. You've got John Lester and Adam Wainwright going tonight. For all intents and purposes, the aces. Now, I know Waka's been really good for the Cardinals, but Wainwright has been their guy throughout the season, and John Lester, 15-8 on the year. He's the Red Sox best. I've been impressed with this World Series. Any World Series that can make me switch over from football or from something else and watch because I'm following it on Twitter and something crazy happened, that gets my attention, and that's something that is not easy to do for baseball. I've never been the huge baseball fan that some of you guys are. So maybe you want to talk about that today. You've got between now and 11:30 to give us a call at 968-NEWS. That's 968-6397. We'd love to hear from you. I'd love for you to answer our poll question, facebook.com/sportsblitz or facebook.com/RVL News. I told you can find me on Twitter at RealMarkFreeman, and we can be interactive today. We want you to answer our questions and just get your voice heard on all the latest in sports. Let's look real quickly, though, at our Peters Family Living local sports look. 10 teams from around the area played Friday night, and it was a fairly balanced night as far as how many teams won and how many teams lost. Now, it was weird that it seemed like most everybody was on the road this week, so we had a tough time picking a game of the week, and apparently we picked about as good a one as you could have had, Pottsville and Maumelle. However, the Apaches fell to Maumelle 29-18. Michael Perry, he'd tell you he had a bad night, 3 interceptions and a fumble. That's something he rarely throws enough to have 3 interceptions, but they were throwing the ball a little bit more on Friday night, and they were not able to capitalize on Maumelle committing 18 penalties, and the Apaches fall 29-18. That score is a little not quite indicative of the game, and it's a little misleading because Maumelle did get a late interception return for a touchdown when Pottsville was trying to go down and score to win the game. But nevertheless, the Hornets take I don't want to call it the driver's seat because they've already lost a game, I believe, not in conference. Boonville is basically the class of this conference in a lot of ways, and now Pottsville's taking Boonville on and the Bearcats on this week in that 4A4 matchup, and then if Pottsville can beat Boonville, they'll have to beat them worse than Maumelle beat Pottsville to regain the upper hand, and then hope Boonville. I'm not sure. It seems like Boonville and Maumelle would have to play in the last game of the season, but I haven't looked at their schedules to see. They would have to hope that Boonville beat Maumelle by fewer points than Pottsville beat Boonville and Maumelle beat Pottsville. So it's going to be, if Pottsville hopes to win this, it's going to be a three-way tie where Pottsville has the point spread advantage to get the 1 seed in going into the playoffs. They're going to go to the playoffs regardless. They're in the top 4 in their conference. They've got the top 4 in the conference are going to be Boonville, Pottsville, Maumelle, and Dardanelle in some form. It's going to be one way or the other there, and we'll have to just see how it works itself out in the next couple weeks. We mentioned Dardanelle. They won 41-20 over Subiaco. They've got Maumelle this Friday, so that's going to be a big game there in the 4A4. Russellville, 42-8 winners over Little Rock Hall. They've got Southside this week. Russellville was able to bounce back from a tough couple of weeks where they've just not had things go right for them, and now they show them what they've won. They get to take on the Southside Rebels, who were this close to taking down Greenwood and ending that 40-some-odd game winning streak that Greenwood's got going. I think it's the third longest winning streak in high school football in the country right now, what Greenwood's doing, and Russellville gets them next week. So I guess Russellville's big hope is, now I know they feel like they can compete with anybody, especially Southside this week. What I think they've got to hope for is that there's a letdown from Southside, which there's inevitably going to be a letdown. If you're Southside and you play up here, and now I'm not saying Southside's bad, but you play up here against Greenwood and you lay it out there on the field, there's no way you're going to travel to Russellville the next week and play that level again. There's going to be some sort of letdown. Can Russellville take advantage of that and get a win Friday night? For their sake, I hope they can. It's a big question. It's a big question mark. I'll be interested to see how the Cyclones fare against the Rebels this week. It's going to be our River Valley Leader featured game of the week. Looking forward to watching the Cyclones and the Southside Rebels take on one another on Friday night. Other games that took place Friday night, Clarksville Panthers fell 35-6 to Harrison. They've got Shiloh Christian this week at home. It's their final game at home this year. We've got 2 tickets to give away. We'll give those away on Friday. Shiloh's getting it back together on offense. It's been a rough year or so for them. They scored 70 points a week before last, so I'd have to look at their schedule and see what they did this last week. But Shiloh's offense is coming around. Clarksville's trying to get them at home, beat them at Matheny Field, use that home field advantage to their advantage, and get a win. Lamar, 51-21 winners over Danville. Looks like Lamar, they're taking on Atkins this week and host the Red Devils on senior night. Atkins did beat Paris 27-23. Lamar, Atkins, I feel like, and I'd have to make sure of this, I think Atkins has lost 2 games. Lamar's lost 1. If Atkins was able to win that game, that they would be able to jump Lamar in the standings. Lamar's trying to nail down at least second in that conference behind Charleston, the 4 AAA. If they're not able to, they're still going to make a playoff berth, but they would have to draw a tougher team in the first round of the state playoffs. Lamar's really trying, and I was talking to a player yesterday. He said, we want some more in Charleston. The problem with that is there are really, really good teams in that 3A that they would have to get to, they may have to beat before they even get to a Charleston. But the Lamar Warriors having a very good season. Josh Jones doing a really good job with that squad. They've got a lot of skill position talent. Their defense picked off Ty Story 3 times. This week, Ty Story was 14 of 16 with 5 touchdown passes against Lavaca. Just really, really good this weekend, this Friday. And Lamar picked him off 3 times. They got a 51-21 win over Danville this week. So they're trying to hold serve there in the 4 AAA. Two Rivers 35-25 winners over Bismarck. They're taking on Benton Harmony Grove there in Ola. Or I guess where would you call it? Where was their home field at? I don't know if it's in Plainview, Ola. somewhere over there in the Two Rivers community. The Gators are going to take on Benton Harmony Grove. Congratulations on the 35-25 win. Danville, we mentioned, lost to Lamar. They host Paris this week. Dover lost 35-0 to Boonville. They're hosting Waldron this week. Dover, come on, Pirates, get your win this week against Waldron. It's been your team you've owned of late, so I'd love to see the Pirates get a win this week against Waldron. I'm going to go out on a limb and predict it right now. Pirates are beating Waldron on Friday night. Hector, it's quickly becoming one of my favorite teams in the area. 45-13 win over Decatur. They've got an open week this week. You'll remember the first week of the season, they played a Tuesday and a Friday, and it sort of messed their schedule up a little bit. They've got an open week, sort of like a college team. Toward the end of their season, they've got a bye week at the end of the season. I think next week will be their final game of the year, but it's going to be a good time for the Hector coaches to get some extra coaching in, unless they fill that, or unless they filled it and I don't know about it. I think it's going to be really hard for them to fill a game at the end of the season when all these other teams are in conference play. But maybe they'll play a scrimmage. Maybe they'll just take the week off and ice their knees. I don't know how they'll go about it. But Dover got an open, or Hector got an open week this week. And Arkansas Tech finally, as we head to break, fell 34-24 to Ouachita Baptist this week. Tough loss for the Wonder Boys. I was following that game, and they were ahead, then they were coming back, and I thought they were going to be able to get over the hump. They weren't able to get that done, but they're taking on East Central Saturday, at 2 o'clock in Ada, Oklahoma. So they're hoping to get back on the right track. I've been impressed with what I've seen from Coach Raymond Monica and how he's changed the atmosphere there at Arkansas Tech real quickly. I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the Great American Conference in the coming years. When you get guys like Rogers out of Henderson, then Arkansas Tech will be able to compete at a higher level. That kid and Henderson are just a machine right now. So Arkansas Tech fell to Ouachita Baptist. They've got East Central on Saturday. When we come back, we're going to look at our poll question. We're going to look at the big stories of the weekend. We're even going to get to some NBA, so stay with us.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville, online at petersfamilyliving.com, or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KARK4 today.
We're going to talk some Hogs here in a little bit. Hogs 9.5-point underdogs to Auburn this week. You think Auburn will cover that 9.5? You think Arkansas will be closer than that? I know where I'd lean, but we'll talk about that later in the week. Look at some college football real quickly. The BCS standings are out following it was a ho-hum weekend in college football. Now, it was fun for me to watch college football and not have to really root at all. The Hogs weren't playing, so they had the open bye week, and I was able to just sort of watch and just basically take it all in. I did kind of root for South Carolina against Missouri. I'll be honest, I was impressed a little bit with what I saw from Missouri, especially on in the line play. Their offensive and defensive lines were a lot better than I figured they would be in their second year of the SEC, but South Carolina was enough. And I think South Carolina was a much better team with Connor Shaw playing full strength, and Mike Davis had a couple of sketchy fumbles. Man, it was like he'd get the handoff and somebody would just somehow grab a hold of his arm the right way and the ball just pop out, and in the inside the 5-yard line one time and he fumbles it. It's just like, what in the world? 2 of them in the red zone. So it was a rough night for him, but South Carolina proved to be the better team. Missouri did miss a field goal that would have tied the game and taken it to triple overtime, but that was probably the game of the week in college football. But we did see the BCS standings switch up a little bit. Last week you had Florida State on the strength of a win over Clemson jump over Oregon. Well, Oregon jumped back over them with their 42-14 win over UCLA. That impressed the computers enough because the UCLA Bruins number 12 in the country. I don't understand. Okay, Clemson was number 3. Florida State was number 5. Florida State beats them like a drum and jumps Oregon. Oregon plays a team that's number 12 in the country and jumps back over. I guess it's the cumulative effect of the schedule that Oregon's played that allowed them to jump back over Florida State. But that's neither here nor there. At the end of the year, Florida State's going to have played, Clemson, Florida, and who else? Miami. So they're going to have, I believe, the strength of schedule advantage over Oregon because Oregon will play this UCLA team who's number 12. They'll play Stanford, who is now number 5. But I think those are going to be the only 2 good games that they'll play all year. Florida State will have at least 1 game over them as far as the teams that they have to play. And then they'll have that conference championship game, which will be against another team in the ACC who is I would assume highly ranked. I'd have to look. But right now you've got Alabama number 1, Oregon number 2, Florida State number 3, Ohio State number 4, and Stanford number 5. A lot of folks were calling for a closer game. I saw it was a good friend of mine in the media up there in Northwest Arkansas. I won't call him out, Derek Oxford, but he picked Tennessee to not beat Alabama, but to play it close, 45-10. The Crimson Tide get the win on Saturday. It was just not close at all. Florida State 49-17 over the Fighting Brandon Mitchells. Poor guy. He's just not that good. And a lot of people were clamoring for him. Well, what if he hadn't left Arkansas? He'd be Sorry, guys. There's a reason he couldn't beat out Brandon Allen and that he's now at NC State. We wish him the best. We hope that he does very well. But you can sort of see that Florida State's defense is incredible. They're on par with Florida as far as what Arkansas has seen, and they'll make you look silly. And they did. They made Brandon Mitchell look awful for the most part. 49-17 winners. Oregon, we mentioned 42-14 over UCLA. Ohio State 63-14 over Penn State. They just don't play anybody. I mean, Wisconsin is going to be their marquee game of the year. And, they beat Northwestern, the mighty Northwestern Wildcats on the road a couple weeks ago. Just survived the scare there in that one. Give me a freaking break. Ohio State, man. They're going to play Michigan in a couple weeks. Woohoo! That's going to be their schedule. That's the reason they're number 4 in the country, and they'll never be above that because somebody will jump them just based on the fact that they actually play somebody. But Ohio State gets that win. Number 5 in the country, Missouri, bounced all the way up there after some impressive wins. I have to give it to them. Beating Florida, I did not see that coming. But Missouri, number 5 in the country, and you brag on the dog, he pees in the floor, right? That's a Brad Caldwellism for you. Missouri, we talked all the good stuff about them last week, and they played well. They were up 17-0 against South Carolina, but the Fighting Steve Spurriers came back and got the 27-24 win. You still see teams like Stanford creeping up, Miami still unbeaten, Baylor putting up big points. I wonder what happens when they play somebody who can slow them down. Oregon, for a good chunk of that game against UCLA, was sort of held down. I think it was 21-14 in the third quarter, or midway through the third quarter, and then Oregon just sort of exploded, which they can do. I feel like Oregon and Baylor are both in that same mold, where you saw it with Clemson. They put up points on everybody. 40, 50, 60 points on everybody. Then they play good defense, and Florida State just puts it to them. I'm not saying that Oregon and Baylor are the same kind of team, but it wouldn't surprise me if when they played a good team with an actual defense and guys who can run, that they just shut them down. So we'll see how that happens. To my point, number 10 in the country, Texas Tech, just been spreading it out and scoring points in bunches over everybody. They go to Oklahoma and play in Norman, 38-30 losers to the Sooners. So my point being, you've seen the Auburns of the world overcome that stigma and win a national championship, but there's one man who was responsible for that. Well, really two. You got Cam Newton, Heisman Trophy winner, unstoppable force, meet the immovable object who was Nick Fairley on the defensive line there, wreaked havoc in the national championship game against Oregon and really all year. So, that they've been the exception to the rule that is, speed and power combination is better than just speed and spread. So we'll see how the college football season ends. Right now, it's about how I expected it. I think Bama is the best team in the country. Vinny Sunseri being out, that hurts. He's the quarterback of that defense. Now, I know Mosley's really good at linebacker, but Sunseri had been a guy who, a couple of years ago, you're thinking, why in the world is this scrub out there? He's getting torched every time. And now you see him, and he's making big plays, and now he's out for the year with a knee injury, I believe. So it's a tough blow for the Alabama Crimson Tide, but they did get Clinton Dix back just in time to play Arkansas. Thank you, NCAA, for giving them their stud safety back. Regardless, Alabama, to me, best team in the country, and it's not a surprise. Let's switch gears real quickly to the NFL. I'll give you my power rankings on Wednesday, but raise your hand if you were surprised in how the Cowboys lost on Sunday afternoon. No, not me either. I was tweeting it and talking about how Arkansas Hogs and the Cowboys, it's the life of a fan. They play about the same way. They find ways to screw it up. Dallas gets a lead, up 10 points with just a couple minutes left. You can hear the announcers even saying, "Oh, well, they're going to fall to this one. Dallas is going to go to 5-3." And I'm thinking, are you idiots watching this game? Dallas is going to find a way to screw this up, and boy, did they ever. You got Des Bryant going and throwing bombs at each other, just cussing left and right up Tony Romo and Jason Witten and the coaches and anybody who'd listen. And then Megatron going for 300 yards receiving. What second best receiving game of all time. Just an incredible game from the Detroit Lion perspective as they were able to come back and Matt Stafford sneaks in for a touchdown. I said this yesterday, and I haven't come down from it. I don't like the Dallas coaching staff, any of them. Take them all. Monty Kiffin, you've done some things with the defense, but bye-bye. I don't mind the defensive line coach. His name is escaping me right now, but he's been very, very good for Dallas. I saw him getting into the defensive line. Now they're calling him the no-name defense now because DeMarcus Ware's hurt, Jay Ratliff's gone. They've got all these injuries that they're having to deal with on the defensive line, but Dallas is able to overcome that, and they can't overcome the stupidity of, in my opinion, Jason Garrett on the and Bill Callahan on the offensive side, and Monty Kiffin on the defensive side. He gives up 51 points to Peyton Manning. I know Peyton Manning's doing it to everybody, but my goodness, you can't think. I could see how this game was going and how Dallas was going to lose the game with a couple minutes left when Matt Stafford throws that fourth down incomplete pass, interception, whatever you want to call it there. I believe it's an interception, but they call it an incomplete pass. And Dallas gets the ball back. They make Detroit use all their timeouts, and Josh Brown, a friend of mine, did make a good point on the third down play for Dallas. When they run, on third down, they get that holding penalty that stops the clock, or else Detroit only has 20-some-odd seconds left. My point is, you've got a guy on the other side who's got 300 yards receiving. What do you think they're going to do if they get the chance? They're going to throw it up to him, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you're going to lose that way. Why don't you try your best to run the clock out? Why don't you get a first down? You've been doing a pretty good job the last two series. If you'll remember, Terrence Williams had a long touchdown. Des Bryant had a long touchdown. I know that the stigma with Tony Romo is that he'll make a mistake and he'll lose you the game. Well, how did it work out for you yesterday? You lost the game anyway. You might as well tell Jason Witten, tell everybody to just run out and get Jason Witten past the first down line, make an easy-ish throw to him in the game on your own terms where you're able to kneel it out rather than give the ball back to them. I knew, and I know many of you Dallas Cowboys fans knew exactly what was coming when they were giving the ball back to Detroit. They were going to lose the game, and that's exactly what happened as our worst fears realized as Dallas was just able to crap it away once again. I was very disappointed. Now Dallas is 4-4, still got a lead in the division. Washington lost. The Philadelphia Eagles lost to the Giants, who are coming back. They've won 2 games in a row, and I still feel like overall they're a lot better than their record indicates. RG3 injured yesterday, so that one's going to be interesting to see how well he can come back from that. Michael Vick and the Philadelphia Eagles, he's going through some injury woes. Eli Manning won't always throw 17 interceptions a game, so Dallas is going to have a fight for them on their hands in the NFC East. Long story short, though, Dallas isn't that good. That's just that's about all there is to it. And even if they do win the division, I don't know why I'm getting my hopes up because they're going to get worked in the playoffs. Peyton Manning throws 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions last night, and Denver gets a 45-21 win. 38 unanswered points for the Denver Broncos in that game. A couple other scores of note. Kansas City, 8-0, gets a 23-17 win over Cleveland. Tom Brady and a jacked up hand. I don't know if you saw that swollen hand. They win 27-17 over the Miami Dolphins. Have one of the coolest interceptions I've ever seen, where a defensive back jumps up, catches the ball in the air as he's going out of bounds, flips it back in, and another guy catches it and keeps his feet in. It was really cool. San Francisco 42-10 winners over Jacksonville. Don't know how many of you didn't see that one coming. The Oakland Raiders and the Fighting Darren McFadden's get a 21-18 win, 2 touchdowns for D-Mac in that one. But we'll give you our power rankings for the NFL on Wednesday. Plenty more on the Sports Blitz. Jason Kilburn joining us right after this break.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on
KRK4 today.
We welcome in Jason Kilburn to the Cogswell Motors Studio via the phone lines. Mark Freeman, Maddie Lassiter here live in studio. We asked today our CrossFit Russellville poll question, what was the biggest story of the weekend in sports? We had lots of stuff going on, 2 World Series games in a hodgepodge weekend where you had, NFL, college football, Major League Baseball, NBA is about to tip off tomorrow. You had a lot of storylines going on. The biggest thing is that 2 World Series games ended in ways that they've never ended before. The obstruction call to end Game 3, the pickoff at first base to end Game 4, and you've got just a crazy World Series, Jason, that's now tied 2-2. You've got 1 game left in St. Louis tonight, Game 5, before we return to Boston for Game 6 and, if necessary, Game 7. Jason, what's going on, man?
Oh, not much, man. Just happy to be on again. Yeah, you were talking about the World Series, man. Those last 2 plays, you never see those plays. The obstruction play is, that was the right call. By the rules, that is the right call. But, that's just a weird way to end the game there. And then the pickoff play last night, which, you got Carlos Beltran up to bat. He shouldn't even be thinking about leading off. If anything, he should be just standing there on first base.
Yeah.
With a power hitter like him, and he's always been great in the playoffs, man, you shouldn't have taken the bat out of his hands, to end the game. And what if he hits a home run there and ties the game? Which he has the potential to do that, which was kind of a crazy play. But, the Missouri game was unbelievable, too. If Connor Shaw would have probably played the whole game, that game wouldn't have been as close as it was, in my opinion. Thompson just couldn't hit anybody, and, of course, he's not half the quarterback as Shaw is, since Shaw has been in and out of battles, his whole life at South Carolina. But he was just wearing the middle of the field out. He was throwing to the tight ends, and then when they finally took that away, you had Ellington coming across, and he hit him across the middle. But Missouri, man, they took one on the chin there. That was a bad break. But I'm sure the kicker was upset at the holder because, the holder, you've always heard laces out. And on both of those missed field goals, he had the laces turned in. And surely he would have said something to him, or I would have thought he would have said something to him after he missed the first one with the laces in, that, make sure the laces are out on this last kick. And, of course, it was turned in again, and he missed it too. But just a bunch of crazy plays this weekend in football and baseball. And just, Calvin Johnson going off yesterday as your Cowboys get beat again on the last second play. And so there's a bunch of crazy stuff that went on this weekend.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that back up. I was just about to get over it, and when I hear Calvin Johnson's name, it just brings a chill up my spine. I'm not real excited about that. We want to hit some hog stuff here in a little bit too, but before we do, let's look at a couple other things. We talked about the World Series being tied 2-2. This is when we hit the wire, just a random assortment of news in sports. The NBA season tips off tomorrow, and you've got, we won't be back on here till Wednesday, so we won't get to do anything preview-wise on the day of the game, so we'll do it a little bit today. Jason, as the NBA season tips off, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, and I think it's going to come as no surprise, that I think Miami's going to go ahead and repeat, because I feel like Dwayne Wade is going to be healthy enough this year. They'll string him along as they have to. They've done a brilliant job the last 2 years, although he's been a little dinged up of making sure that they can capitalize on what health he does have. I think his off-season workout regimen was good enough as far as working with a special trainer and getting himself back right. What they're doing with Greg Oden has sort of opened my eyes to how Miami goes about their business as far as getting guys ready to play meaningful minutes late in the season. It's one of those things where they're going to work them through a process and get them ready to play. With that being said, there's one team in the NBA. Now, the Western Conference is good. You've got Oklahoma City. You've got the Spurs. You've got all those teams that are going to vie for a championship this year, but you only have to face one of them. There's one team, to me, Jason, that really scares me in the Eastern Conference. I want you to guess who it is.
You're probably going to say the Pacers.
You're right. The Bulls, to me, I feel like you can easily shut them down. There's a secret to this. Derrick Rose is the motor. LeBron James is the baseball bat. He's going to punish Derrick Rose when it comes down to it. Derrick Rose won't be able to do anything. Heat win in 5, maybe 6, at the very worst 7. They're not losing a series to them. But the Indiana Pacers getting Danny Granger back, getting Luis Scola. They've got some pieces here. Now, they're offensively not as gifted as Miami, but they'll make it a 15-round fight. And when they make it a fight like that, if they're able to get hot, Paul George nearly beat Miami last year. If he's able to get hot at the wrong moment, wrong for me being a Heat apologist, but if they're able to get hot at the wrong moment, they could take down Miami, and they worry me.
Yeah, Miami's going to be the odds-on favorite to win it. If nobody picks the Miami to win it, they probably don't know much about basketball, probably. But, Miami's just voted. And as long as LeBron's there, as long as D-Wade's there, and he's healthy, and Chris Bosh, and then they've got a bunch of role players, Birdman coming off the bench, they got Mario Chalmers at the point. They have a solid team, of course. I mean, that's why they've won the last 2 championships, because they do have a good team. But, the Pacers are good. You've got Roy Hibbert inside, too, who always gives everybody problems. And if he could ever really turn into just a really good low post, maybe a little Kareem hook shot or something, if he had one good move, he would be really good. But the Pacers, they've got a good team. And you talked about the Bulls with Rose coming back. I'm a big Joakim Noah fan. I think he brings a lot to the table. He hustles. He's starting to work on his shot a lot more. He can hit that mid-range jump shot. And a team that nobody's really talking about out of the East, and I'm not for sure if they can make a run at it because they are getting up there in age, but is the New Jersey Nets.
Yeah.
Or now I guess it's the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
And with them, bringing Paul Pierce and KG aboard, to go with Darian Williams and
Joe Johnson.
Yeah, Joe Johnson, and then you got Brook Lopez down low, man. That's a great starting 5. Yeah, they are, old. Most all of them are all old, but, man, that's a good starting 5 right there. And I think the Nets are going to surprise some people this year.
Yeah, Brandon Friedel just texted in. He said Brooklyn Nets. He agrees with you there. Look, for me, I've always, and I don't want to say this too literally, I've always been scared of Paul Pierce because he's one of those, he and Kevin Garnett are like OGs. They're not afraid of anybody. They'll go out there and get in a fist fight with anyone. And watching those guys play over the years, I've grown to respect the way they go about their business. And if, at the end of the year, they're going to be right there. With all due respect, Arkansas fans and those of you who are watching or listening right now who would disagree with me, I think Joe Johnson's going to be the weak link. He can't guard anybody, and he likes to shoot a whole lot. If that comes down to be, in Darren Williams last year, he got very upset. And the second half of the year, he played well. But the first half of the year, he got his coach fired, pretty much. He was, and it's the second time he's done that. So I don't know how the shot distribution is going to work. I know Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett are going to do what's best for the team. I'm wondering how Darren Williams is going to respond the first time Kevin Garnett gets in his face, and he will. And Brook Lopez, I think he can learn a lot from Kevin Garnett. So I do think that the Brooklyn Nets are going to be right there. It's just the fact that they may come together a little quicker than I thought that they would as far as chemistry goes. But the Indiana Pacers have all those pieces, and they've played together for a little while. I feel like they're a little more gelled. But, yeah, Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett are guys that, I know LeBron and the Heat have overcome that obstacle in the past, but this team has more firepower than the Celtics teams of the last few years. Can the Brooklyn Nets overcome a first-year head coach that, do we know if Jason Kidd knows how to coach the end of a game? I mean, we know he knew how to play, but does he know how to, draw up a play at the end of the game, or does he know how to? And I'm not saying drawing up a play is just super difficult, but think on your feet and make the right substitution. And how well does this coaching staff make those decisions? We don't know, so we'll see. I've got the Brooklyn Nets below the Indiana Pacers, probably between the Pacers and the Bulls, if I'm being honest, because last year it was a 7-game series between the Bulls and the Nets, and Brooklyn didn't have several good guys, and obviously Chicago didn't have Derrick Rose. So, Jason, that East race is probably going to be about as fun as the West. I watch for the Houston Rockets to make a big jump. Patrick Beverley, maybe the starting point guard for the Houston Rockets. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he unseats Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, and Kevin McHale actually came out the other day and said that he has 2 starting point guards with, Beverly and Lynn. So, and Beverly played great down the stretch, and I think he'll be the starting point guard for the Rockets this year.
Yeah, I think he gives them the better chance. You've got James Harden, who likes to shoot it a lot, and you've got Chandler Parsons, who is a good garbage man, and we know that Dwight Howard's going to need his touches, or he may literally sit on the floor and cry. But he's going to get his touches too. I think Dwight Howard is going to put up some big numbers. Speaking of numbers, Jason, let's look through our top 15. You have your list with you?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. Well, we know that there are some names who are going to be on here. I want to run through these quickly. I want to give you some statistical reason for why I put some of these teams in these places, but I don't want to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on it because we need to hit a break. I've got LeBron number 1. I've got Kevin Durant number 2. A lot of people wouldn't agree with having Chris Paul at number 3, but to me, if you watch him right now, Doc Rivers is kind of turning him loose, and he's incredible. He plays the point guard position the way the greats of old play the point, and I love watching him play the point. Number 4, I've got James Harden, simply because I'm not sure about Russell Westbrook right now, coming back from his injury. I do have Russell Westbrook number 5 because he is a freak talent. Dwight Howard is number 6 for me. He's going to be down the list for some people, but I feel like he's going to lead the league in blocks. He's going to lead the league in rebounds this year. He's going to average nearly 20 points. So that's 20, 13, and nearly 3 on the season for Dwight Howard, and I'm sure he'll get some assists. I'm sure his numbers will be incredible, running up and down the floor like the Houston Rockets are going to do, lots of possessions. So he's at number 6 for me. I've got number 7, a guy who's injured right now, and who is sort of a last hurrah and a lot of respect for Kobe Bryant, because number 4, he would have been number 4 last year for me after what he did. He averaged 27 points, 6 rebounds, or 6 assists, and 5.5. You score 27 points and you get 6 assists. That's LeBron James territory as far as numbers wise. 5.5 rebounds. His career average of 25.5, 5 and 5. Kobe Bryant was above that last year at like 33, 34. If he's able to come back from his injury, I know he won't have the talent around him and he may have to shoot it a little bit more, but I still give him one last run as one of the top players. Just the motivation that comes from people doubting him this year will fuel him. At number 8, I've got Steph Curry. 9, Kyrie Irving. 10, Derrick Rose. A lot of people have him higher. I'm not a big Derrick Rose fan. Number 11, Dwayne Wade. Number 12, Kevin Love. He averaged 18 points, 14 rebounds, and 3 assists last year before he got hurt. Rajon Rondo, Carmelo Anthony, Deron Williams, LaMarcus Aldridge, and a first-team All-NBA from last year at number 15, a guy who, speaking of last hurrahs, this is going to be his last season in the NBA, he says, and looking at the numbers, I was talking with Coach Hill, Garrett Hill, the other day, and he was talking about, look at the numbers that Tim Duncan put up last year. First team All-NBA, was the best center, and I know he's probably the best power forward of all time, but he was the best center in the league last year, led his team to the NBA Finals, and was this close to knocking off the Miami Heat. Tim Duncan, for me, if nothing else, for his last year performance and the fact that he's still doing it at 38 years old, I've got Tim Duncan at number 15 on my list. Jason, go to town.
Your list is a little different than mine, but I probably got some people in there that you probably wouldn't have in there, and then I've got a list of some that I did put in that I think is on the verge of getting there. Number 1, of course, hands down, LeBron James. No better player in the NBA. Probably, I'm going to say probably before his time is up, he's probably going to go down as the greatest NBA player of all time. And that's hard for me to say since I'm not a big LeBron fan after his decision that he made, on the ESPN and bringing all the attention to him. But you can't have a list in the NBA and not have LeBron James as number 1. Number 2, I got Kevin Durant. Number 3, I got Chris Paul. Our top 3 is the same. Now, right here is where we start changing. Mm-hmm. I've got number 4, I've got Kobe Bryant, and you said you would have had him there if he would have been still healthy. His last year, I'm a big Lakers fan, and his last year was his best average of his whole time, that you was already talking about that, but he had career highs in almost every statistical category. His field goal percentage was up. His free throw percentage up. He had a great year last year at an older age for an NBA player. Number 5, I've got Derrick Rose, which I know you have him a little bit lower on the list. Number 6, I got Russell Westbrook. Number 7, James Harden. Number 8, Seth Curry. Number 9, Kyrie Irving. Number 10, Dwight Howard. You had him a little bit higher. A lot of people have him ranked high, which he's the highest-rated big man that I have. But I'm just not sold on Dwight Howard. You know what he did when he was at Orlando. He was he's pretty good. But what he did when he was at Oakland, what he did when he was in L.A. It just seems like he was always, if he didn't get his way, he was always pouting or something, and that just rubbed me the wrong way. Number 11, I've got Kevin Love. Number 12, I've got Tony Parker.
It's a good choice.
He's a point guard, man, and he knows how to get everybody involved. He'll take the big shot if he needs to. He's just an all-around point guard that I like a lot. Number 13, I've got Tim Duncan, which is probably a surprise there, but, man, he's an old man, and he still knows how to do it. He's still got that bank shot going on, and he's still working it like he's always had for as many years as he's been in the NBA. 14, I got Carmelo Anthony, and then 15, I've got Paul George, which I like him a lot, man. What he did in the playoffs is he really turned it up a notch, and I think he has a chance to be a superstar for the Pacers. And I know they've got Danny Granger too, but I think he can be that guy that can get them over the hump and maybe past Miami.
Okay, so let me make sure that I'm getting this right. You don't have Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo, Carmelo Anthony, Darren Williams, or LaMarcus Aldridge in your top 15?
I got Carmelo Anthony in there.
Okay, I didn't know if you. Okay, I'll mark him off the list here. People I'm calling you crazy for.
The ones that were on the verge of making it: Darren Williams, Dwayne Wade. And here's a surprise here that I like a lot, which his teams are getting better. When he was out, his teams wasn't very good, but when he came back into the lineup, he really, I think they were close to a 500 team. Which
John Wall.
I think. Do what?
Is it John Wall?
John Wall.
Yep.
And I like John Wall a lot. He's a good point guard. Another one, Joakim Noah, I like him a lot. Aldridge, you talked about him. I didn't have him in there. He's on the verge of being in there. Blake Griffin, David Lee, and Rondo.
Yeah.
So those are the people that was on the verge of being, from 11 to 15 that didn't make my list.
For me, Rajon Rondo made the list where he did because he averaged last year for the season. Now, he played the whole season before he got hurt. 14 points, 11 assists, and 5.5 rebounds a game. Those are some incredible numbers, especially since he can't shoot, and he doesn't try to shoot a lot of times. He averaged double-digit assists, so he's one of two guys on the list for me to average double-double, and that's Dwight Howard is the other one. But to me, man, Rajon Rondo, I've not given him as much respect as I should have over the years. Jason, let's hit a break real quick, and when we come back, we'll look at some Arkansas Razorback Hog Talk. I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow's NBA season opener. I hope you guys are too, because I actually like to talk about the NBA, and if you don't like it, well, you can just call us any old time and let us know what you think you would rather talk about. This show is for you. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we'll talk Arkansas Razorbacks.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. check out rivervalleyleader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Final couple minutes of Hog Talk. Welcome to the Sports Blitz on a Monday. Mark Freeman. Almost called you Weldon Braxton. Just muscle memory. I almost called you Weldon Braxton, but you are completely white. Maddie Lassiter inside the studio with me, Jason Kilburn on the line, and it's time for some Hog Talk. Arkansas taking on Auburn. Final home game in Fayetteville of the year. You got Mississippi State in Little Rock, which can hardly be considered a home game. But Arkansas, 9.5-point underdog. Where would you go on that line if you had to pick Arkansas if you were given 9.5 points to win that game against Auburn? Jason, I'm not going to give my final score prediction, but right now it'd be hard for me to pick Arkansas to win, even if given 9.5 points.
I couldn't agree more. If I was a betting man, I would bet Auburn all day long. You know, the line came out at, I think it came out at like 6.5 or 7 or something like that. So that definitely means that more people are betting, you know, that way. So that's why that line keeps going up. Which Auburn, man, this game is going to be it's going to be fun to watch. And the reason I say that is, you know, Bielema and Malzahn don't like each other just from, you know, all the SEC stuff, you know, from early in their season when Bielema was talking about, you know, he doesn't think that a team should run a hurry-up offense. And, you know, Malzahn said that it was a joke. And then Bielema said, you know, he's not a comedian. And so, you know, he's more serious about his team, you know, how he doesn't want his players injured, you know, and all that stuff. So this game could be, you know, Malzahn could probably be snapping it every second he gets a chance. He's going to snap that ball and try to run as quick as possible. And then I see Bielema on the other side. It wouldn't surprise me if he ran the clock all the way down to 2 or 3 seconds before he hiked the ball. So I think it's going to kind of be a chess match back and forth between the two, and I think it should be a pretty good game. But if I was a bet man, I would bet Auburn and give up the points.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some stats here right now, and these things aren't things that bode well for Arkansas this weekend. Auburn's 5th in the country in rushing yards. They rush for 315 yards a game. When you're rushing for 315 yards a game and you're running a play every 4.2 seconds like they're going to do, I'm a little facetious with that. That's a recipe for disaster when Arkansas doesn't have any linebackers. And then they decide to throw, and they throw for nearly 200 yards a game. Then you keep the Arkansas defense off balance, and the Arkansas defense isn't any good anyway. Maybe the defensive line can cause enough pressure or can clog the holes a little bit. I don't see a whole lot of defensive speed overall on the Arkansas defensive backfield and with the linebackers. So hopefully, maybe, just maybe, Arkansas can figure out a way, kind of like what Jason was talking about, to disrupt what Auburn wants to do. Right now, the way I see it, though, Auburn, number 11 in the country, they're going to go into Georgia. I guess they're going to host Georgia on the 16th, and they're going to be 11-1, in my opinion. Or no, sorry, 9-1, and I think Georgia is banged up, and Auburn will have a chance in that game, especially with it being at home, to go face Alabama, final game of the year, Iron Bowl, at 10-1, with Alabama number 1 in the country, national championship aspirations. And, it's going to help both of those teams, regardless of who wins that game, if Auburn's able to stay undefeated and play Alabama, they're in the national championship talk. And I know that it's crazy to say after what I saw of Auburn early on in the year. Washington State, first game of the year, they won 31-24. I think they're not very good. The third game of the year, they beat Mississippi State 24-20, and I thought Auburn, not very good. The next week they lose to LSU 35-21, but they were down, I think, 28-0 or something. They were down quite a bit, and I thought, yeah, they're not very good. Then the next week they beat Ole Miss 30-22, and I think, yeah, they're not very good. Since then they've continued to win, and in the meantime they've continued to win. And Jason, Auburn has just been slowly but steadily getting it done. Now, I don't want to take away from what Brett Bielema has done, or not really done, and say that Gus Malzahn's just a much better coach. I think he came into a much better position with top 5 recruiting classes, and guys that he helped recruit there at Auburn. But you have to sort of tip your cap to what Gus Malzahn has done there at Auburn.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you have to. And like you're saying, though, he did. He was only gone 1 year, so the players that are in there already know his system that was running in it and stuff. So, and then for him to bring in Marshall, the quarterback, which I'm not for sure. I think he's maybe out this game or something. I know he got hurt in the game on Saturday, so I'm not for sure if he's going to be back or out or not. But if he's out, Arkansas has a great chance to win because he's starting to be able to throw the ball pretty good, and he can run the ball real good. But back to Malzahn for a second. He's a good coach. Everywhere he goes, he wins. So it doesn't matter if he was Arkansas. His year that he was Arkansas, he was the offensive coordinator of the year. He goes to Tulsa, has them. I think I could be wrong on this, but I think it was the first time ever that a quarterback's thrown for 5,000 yards. A running back has ran for over 1,000 yards and had 3 different 1,000-yard receivers in the same season. I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm pretty positive on that. And then, and then what he did at Auburn, winning the national title. Then he goes to A-State, and they were successful there, went to a bowl game. And then he comes back to Auburn, and he's winning again there. So wherever he goes, he's a winner. But I don't know if he's a better coach than Bielema. You really can't tell right now just because he is, early in his head coaching career. But what he's done so far at Auburn has been phenomenal.
Yeah, well, we've run out of time. We'll preview a little bit more of the Arkansas-Auburn game on Friday or on Wednesday and Friday. I promise you, it won't be a Gus Malzahn love fest. We'll move on from that. I'm just as guilty because he's done some good things in his career. We're going to talk Hog basketball on Wednesday. Their first game is an exhibition game against SIU Edwardsville on Friday, November the 8th. But the red-white game took place last night. 24 points from Kai Madden, 26 points from Alondis Harris, and 24 from Fred Gully. And then on the other team, you've got 21 from Ja'Cory Williams, 20 from Michael Qualls. You got a lot of scoring in the game. It was 112-102, sort of designed to be that way. But there were some positives that we can take from that game, and we'll talk a little bit more about it on Wednesday. I did see here on Twitter real quickly before we leave. We talked about Jeff Long, athletic director for the University of Arkansas, now the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee, and a lot of folks were talking about him going to Texas. Chip Brown, who is a guy who covers the University of Texas exclusively, he says West Virginia athletic director Oliver Luck could be named athletic director at Texas by the end of November. His sources say that would take a load off my mind if Jeff Long were stuck at Arkansas. And I know that sounds bad for the long haul if they were able to lock him in. So that's good news, Arkansas fans. We'll be back on Wednesday. Thank you to Jason. Thank you to Maddie for hooking us up with a good show today on a Monday. We'll be back on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. I promise we won't go 5 minutes over on Wednesday. Thank you guys for joining us on the Sports Blitz. We'll be back on Wednesday.